Hello and a very warm welcome to the AussieJetSetter YouTube channel. Today I've got something very special for you. I'm going to be doing the review of all reviews as we absolutely for the first time on the channel have a look at how the channel's performed over the last year, basically offering a recap of many of the videos, the flight reviews, the train reviews, the walking tours, hiking tours, driving tours, everything you name it that I've released on the channel this year. As it is my first one, it's actually going to incorporate part of last year as well, when I first started the channel back in May last year. So yeah, may as well consider it the review of all reviews of how the channel's progressed since day one when I started this channel around about 18 months ago. So without further ado now, let's before we start having a bit of a comical look at what I did well and what I didn't do so well with some of my videos over the last 18 months or so, let's quickly head to the YouTube studio, check out a few key stats first to track the progress of the channel before we head over to our first videos for today. Let's head to the About section on the AussieJetSetter channel page. So you'll see I've done 270 videos, over 195,000 views, and I joined on May 31, 2022. The abbreviated subscriber count is 1.29k subscribers there. Alrighty, let's head over to the analytics in YouTube Studio now. Let's have a look at first how the channel fared in 2022. So you can see in 2022, the first year of the channel, got 21,271 views, about 1,300 hours of watch hour, 126 subscribers, 500,000 impressions. Basically didn't pick up to November, December. That's when I started to release my first flight reviews from my first trip to New Zealand. So yeah, there you see some of my most popular videos. And New Zealand, Auckland to Normea was most popular, followed by Qantas, Perth to Sydney in business class. And yeah, basically my other flight reviews followed suit as well, then some of my takeoff and landing videos. Alrighty, let's head to this year now. So obviously huge exponential growth on the channel this year, 175,000 views, nearly 12,000 watch hours, a whopping 1161 subscribers, even made $290 revenue, and impressions about 2.769 million. So yeah, very much my flight reviews are still my most popular reviews content on the channel, though walking tour is also incredibly popular as well. You see my walking tour of Normea very popular, 6,700, and my walking tour of Perth, 6,400. So yeah, it's been a very impressive year this year. Got monetized about, became eligible for YouTube partner program about 2 months ago now. Got it all officially set up about 6 weeks ago. So $290, been averaging about $50 a week. Pretty happy, to be honest, more than I thought. A little bit bureaucratic setting up the progress, but it is what it is. So yeah, plenty of videos over 1,000 views as well. So really impressed with this year's progress. Alrighty. Without further ado, it'd be absolutely fitting to start my review of all reviews by going to my very first video that I ever posted on the AussieJetSetter YouTube channel. Might only be a flight takeoff video. I think this is from my trip to Tassie, where I did that ultimate Tasmanian road trip. That was back in the height of the pandemic in 2022. So I was flying a direct flight with Qantas all the way to Hobart from Perth. That was a really great flight and it was a great holiday, and one of the few places I could do during the middle of the COVID pandemic when WA borders were largely shut. Tasmania was an option at the time. So yeah, it got 64 views and that was first released on June 2 last year. let's head to the first ever flight review that I released on the channel. Wasn't in order of my trip to New Zealand, in order of the flights I took, but I decided to release a Jetstar flight review from Wellington to Auckland. This was a very unexpected flight. Basically, I got COVID just before I was going to New Zealand. Was supposed to be flying direct, but then had to scramble at the last minute to rebook flights a few days later due to COVID isolation. Got this Qantas flight into Wellington. Then there was a power outage in Perth, and I ended up flying to Wellington via Sydney. Then I had to get Auckland the next day. So yeah, this is the first flight review that I ever did. So yeah, I'm looking at the videos on the screen in front of me.
All Jetstar flights are completed at the far end of the terminal level 2 check-in area.
So I think with this review, I think it's reasonably informative. I'm giving lots of information, I hope, about, you know, what it's like at Wellington Airport and that sort of stuff. There's really amazing views. I don't know if people like my music on takeoff and landing or not. This is the first sort of music I used for flight takeoffs and landings. It didn't last long, however. The scenery is really amazing.
Exclusive seat and 7 kilo carry on the starter bed. Essentially double the cost of the bed. The purpose of this fare, however.
But yeah, I think in all seriousness, this was definitely a pretty amateur review. The pretty blurry landing there coming into Auckland. The audio was pretty poor on this. When I first started with the flight reviews, I have a GoPro with a media mod. So basically I was just doing the voiceover with the GoPro. Then I was transferring it over to my computer, my LumaFusion program. Yeah, and it was just really light. It wasn't the best audio, so I do apologise for that. These days I've got a Blue Yeti microphone, so I hope it's a lot better. But yeah, at the time that seemed like a good idea. Thought I had a dedicated microphone with the GoPro, but it's not that great, to be honest. So yeah, that was probably my first apology from that video. It's also pretty shaky as well. There was a few scenes like going up the escalator, really unnecessary stuff to film. So I'll try and avoid that sort of stuff in the future. Anyway, so here's all the reviews that you can see from 2022. I think there's about 9.
To Perth Airport. The time is currently 8 AM and today I'll be flying Qantas in their Boeing 737 in business class on the flight.
Anyway, on to the Perth to Sydney Qantas business class review.
In total travel time. The check-in process at Perth Airport for Qantas has always been arguably amongst the best I've ever experienced in Australia. On multiple occasions for both
definitely lapping a bit of praise on Qantas there.
That I took to London in April 2019.
Seemed to be going against the grain at the time of public opinion.
I can certainly attest
that being said, I wasn't too happy with
Qantas
Qantas at the time, however. There was this ridiculous storm the night before in Perth. And the whole airport lost power, and basically the airport was closed. I was supposed to be flying A330 business class over to Sydney and then over to Wellington the next morning. It's going to be an overnight flight. Was really keen, but yeah, it got bumped to a 737. So yeah, it was an absolute nightmare getting to New Zealand. I was supposed to be flying Perth to Auckland direct, premium economy on Air New Zealand. Obviously got COVID that delayed me by 3 days. I scrambled at the last minute, rebooked this Qantas reward seat. It's 40,000 points or so, 50,000 points saying to Wellington. Then I just booked a Jetstar flight to Auckland. But yeah, when that was cancelled, they rebooked me the next morning, and then I had to have an overnight in
Today I was
Sydney.
seated in business in
I guess the
seat
flip
3F,
side of this
which was one of the
is
few
I got to
remaining
do
seats
two
left
business
that
class
was selected
reviews,
online
although they're
free
both on the
of charge
737.
prior to checking in. Unlike the first row in business, those in this row
So yeah, pretty wintry old day taking off out of Perth there. Hopefully I've given you a bit over the top doing 2 lounge reviews, but yeah, wanted to kick it off with a bang.
if they wish, would address this dilemma and help professionalise the business class dining experience and help reduce waste at the same time. Service began approximately half an hour after takeoff, with crew coming around to personally take post-departure drink orders. Asked for a sparkling wine on offer,
Don't
which
usually
was a
drink
Grand
wine
Urge,
or
Pinot
sparkling
Noir
or anything
Chardonnay,
like that,
which comes
but
in a
I
neat
thought it was
piccolo
necessary
bottle.
for the sake of the
Retailing
flight
at
review.
around $25 a bottle in Australia.
It's a pretty
It's
fancy
probably one of the
bottle
fanciest you'll
of
find on a
something
regular
that was
domestic Australian carrier
okay,
flight,
but
of course
nothing
far
amazing.
behind what you would expect on a flagship international carrier. I
That's
received
a
the only
Qantas business
remaining
class
lunch
meal for you.
option, which was the lamb shank, which was tender
No
and tasty
food
and
critic,
came
no
accompanied
foodie.
by sourdough
So you're
bread
probably
and
not
a
going to
lemon
get
cake,
in-depth
which was all washed
reviews
down by
of the
a tasty
food on
little
board
creature's
flights from
Pacific
me.
ale.
But
All
yeah,
in
that
all,
was
the
a
meal
business
service
class
was
meal.
reasonably tasty and well
It was reasonably
portioned,
good,
and in line with what
although
I'd
it's
expect
nothing
with domestic
mind-blowing
business
either.
class catering. During the remaining few
Bit
hours of the
disappointing,
flight, the crew
that
did
was
several
only
ground
choice left,
dining,
however.
several red and whites on offer for
So yeah, I think I've showcased some
at
great
40,000
views across the
feet.
Australian continent.
After nearly
Flying
4
over
hours
to
in
Sydney
air and
today,
one in
so I hope you really
port,
enjoyed
2
that
hours
in
onto
this
daylight
video.
saving time, we approach our descent over Botany Bay into Kingsford Smith.
Believe it or not, this is actually my most popular YouTube video yet. Sitting on about 9.95 thousand views at the time of filming this, so I'm confident that we reach the 10k by the time this review of all reviews goes to air next week.
Either comparable to international business class
That's
operated by wide-body
absolutely
aircraft.
shocking
This expectation
filming
turned
there.
out to be very much in line with the
I
experience.
think on
this
LumaFusion
flight.
I
For
saw
us,
that
this
my
flight offers
footage
the
was a
benefit
bit
of premium lounge access,
unsteady.
more
That's an
personalised
understatement
service,
to say the
improved
least.
dining and drink
But
selection
there was
than
this
economy,
feature where
and a
you
more
could
comfortable seat with
stabilise the
greater legroom.
footage
Sure, it was a pleasant upgrade
digitally,
than
so I
flying
thought I'd
economy,
try that, but I
would
think
it
it's
be
probably
worth the
made
cash
it even
price
worse, to be honest.
sometimes
So
upwards of $2,000,
yeah,
and many times the cost
that
of
is
coach,
definitely
which is
not
already
my
all-inclusive on
best work
Qantas,
in
you'd
terms
probably
of
say absolutely not. However, if
camera
redeemed
work
as
there.
Qantas Classic Flight Reward,
very,
or
very
around
uneven,
40,000
so
points all in,
that's
which
saying
is
I
double the
definitely
points of
tried to
economy
improve on
redemption, then
pretty
this is
well
definitely
straight
a good
after that
investment
video.
to outlay some points on. Good morning and welcome.
Next up, we've got our Sydney to Wellington business class review the next morning. So yeah, this has got over 5,600 views. This is my first international flight out of Australia since the borders reopened. So that's a really significant flight for me, I reckon. First international business class flight for me as well, so a bit of significance.
Today we'll be flying across the Tasman to Wellington on Qantas's Boeing 737.
Quite like how I've added a map there. Although I don't think it was the most illustrative map, but never mind.
Nonetheless, the route generally sees at least 2 daily flights.
I've got that dreaded flickering that you get. It's usually more with the GoPro when you go in indoor places. But yeah, it looks like it's coming in on the iPhone as well.
On the Sydney to Auckland route, passengers taking direct flights to the New Zealand capital will have to settle for narrow-body.
So yeah, giving out a lot of information there about what aircraft fly on the Sydney to Wellington route.
The flight is scheduled at 3 hours and 15
One
minutes.
moment, retrieving your booking. That seemed like forever. Here's the Qantas Business Lounge.
In the lounge, there's plenty of comfortable.
That was really first international business lounge for me.
Unlike the previous domestic flight between Perth and Sydney the previous day, pre-departure service got off time.
I think my commentary is a bit mix matched, unfortunately. So I need to get better at that.
With the drinks coming out already poured on a tray with no bottle in sight, there was no way to confirm where it was actually the
But amazing views as I'm talking about getting no sparkling wine or any pre-departure beverage on this business class flight. That was pretty disappointing, Qantas. But yeah, it's pretty impressive views as we fly out of Sydney and I think away out over Botany Bay. The meal looks fairly similar to yesterday's meal, to be honest. All served on the one plate. You could argue you'd expect better for international business class. I reckon the Trans-Tasman business class is pretty not much different to the domestic business class, to be honest.
During the remaining few hours of the flight, the crew did several rounds offering.
Those views when you first come into New Zealand are absolutely spectacular. Amazing day today. Fly over the Southern Alps, over the northern extremities of South Island. Then you cross over the Cook Strait and into the very rugged, windy sort of coastline surrounding Wellington, Windy Welly, one of my favourite places to land all the time. This is where I had a bit of a stuff up. The LumaFusion music got a copyright ID claim, so I thought I would remove the music, blur it out through the YouTube studio. Just easy enough to remove it, and it's all distorted my audio. So it's a pity there's this review and I think the Perth to Sydney review, a little bit of distorted audio, only about 10% of the video. Yeah, it's a pity that's happened, but I just had to do it. When the channel came monetized, I just didn't want any copyright claims. Alrighty, here's our next flight review. It's a Jetstar flight A320 all the way up to Auckland from Christchurch.
Of New Zealand, and also the main international gateway to New Zealand's South Island.
Great footage to start the review there with the US Air Force plane there.
Time in just over an hour. Obviously, you'll be flying in economy class.
Yeah, still a little bit rocky, the footage, so yeah, I didn't quite perfect it by that point.
In Auckland tonight, because I've got it
probably a bit excessive, the amount of walking through the car park. I think you guys get the point what the car park looks like.
Air New Zealand, so you can see that flight review also on the channel. But
amazing sunset there out of we're flying out of Christchurch. It was a pretty dull old evening, but once we got out of those clouds, that sunset was amazing. But yeah, apart from that, this was a pretty decent flight for Jetstar standards. Everything I ordered is what I got. Jetstar Starter Max bundle. Got a snack and a hot drink complimentary or included in the ticket. And yeah, got me to and from A to B. Really don't know why you'd pay much more for Air New Zealand, to be honest.
Flight reviews and other destination themed content as they go to air on the channel.
Alrighty, here's my first ever ferry review. This is the Inter-Islander Wellington to Picton ferry review. This one's done okay. It's probably got around 1.6 thousand views. I think it's a reasonably good start there. Footage is pretty steady. Probably a little bit too much emphasis on walking up the gangway there. Probably a bit over the top. But yeah, provide lots of information about the route and the Cook Strait more generally, and how the crossing is vital to the New Zealand economy.
Passengers, vehicles, trucks and freight between the two islands on a daily basis. Today's ferry route is operated by the Inter-Islander Ferry Service, who are one of two ferry operators on the 3-hour and 30-minute sea crossing across the Cook Strait. The other is Blue Ridge Ferries. I recommend getting the early morning service if your day is starting in Wellington, as it will give you all the...
So yeah, I've always loved ferries. Really want to do the Spirit of Tasmania next year down to Tassie from Geelong. Just the freedom of being able to move around is really cool. There's always lots of things to see and do on ferries. Done a couple international ferry routes, between England and France, Germany and Denmark, and also Estonia and Sweden. Always enjoy a good ferry ride.
To take the Inter-Islanders Wellington Terminal shuttle bus, which departs from platform 9 at Wellington Station 50 minutes prior to all departures. Taking a taxi or Uber if travelling with lots of luggage, or if the weather is poor, is also another option.
What a day to be sailing out of Wellington. A little bit overcast that morning, but yeah, once we got out of the Straits, the weather was actually really good in Picton.
Where there's magnificent views basically for the whole journey, so it's well worth getting out there at some point.
In this review, I probably needed to do a little bit more focus on what you can actually do inside the ferry, as opposed to just filming the amazing scenery from outside. So that's probably something I'll have to look at a bit more for my future ferry reviews, especially if I do that Spirit of Tasmania, which will be an overnight service most likely for me.
Just want to sit down with a laptop or do some work or something like that. So there's several cafes.
But yeah, it's a relatively calm day out over the Cook Strait. Beautiful day for sailing, even if it was midwinter.
Playground, rest areas for truck drivers, and onboard Wi-Fi.
Wow, look at that. That's the first sight of the South Island of New Zealand and the beautiful little town of Picton. Very, very famous wine growing region in this part of New Zealand. It's a very rugged coastline drive down to Christchurch as well, which you can see in another video in my Ultimate New Zealand travel series. Alrighty, moving on to our next flight. It was an Air New Zealand Economy Works Deluxe flight all the way from Auckland to Noumea in New Caledonia.
Overseas territory of New Caledonia and its largest city of Noumea. As mainland France is over 24 hours from New Zealand, who would have thought you could actually fly direct between New Zealand and France in little over 3 hours? But the surprising news is, yes, you can.
What do you mean, yes, you can?
New Caledonia, which is a mere 2.5 hours from Australia or 3 hours from New Zealand.
Well, there you go. You can fly from New Zealand to France in less than 3 hours. Who would have known? Very cool indeed.
Getting to the airport only involved a leisurely 10-minute walk this morning.
That was easy, a 10-minute walk from the Ibis budget.
The nationwide super shuttle service, especially for an early morning departure. Arriving just after 5 in New Zealand Lounge.
Alrighty, cut out some of the escalator scenes, that's good.
I was able to access the Strata Lounge at Auckland Airport.
It was a really nice lounge, the Strata Lounge at Auckland Airport. Here it's the first ever priority pass, or at the time I was under lounge key, lounge that I accessed. So very good one to start with indeed here in Auckland. Can't go wrong at all at the Strata Lounge.
A320. the workhorse behind all of Air New Zealand's domestic jet service and also many of its short-haul trans.
I should have been doing aircraft information at this point in time.
Air New Zealand
I just got straight into it.
Has 168 seats in an all-economy
Pretty cool
configuration.
in-flight safety video as always on Air New Zealand. They always get very creative and cultural with their in-flight videos.
Spacious seat, with certain seats in row 1 to 11 being Space Plus seats, offering better legroom, while Work Deluxe passengers will be seated in Oh
well, straight to New Caledonia, and that was an amazing place to come into land. Very, very beautiful. The reefs and that off New Caledonia, very nice.
International Airport.
This is our return now. Our Qantas flight that we nearly missed.
The French overseas territory of New Caledonia. Today is a very
That was a quick one. It was only about a 2-hour flight, this one.
After being 6 weeks abroad,
nearly missed the flight after my shuttle bus didn't rock up. And then I kept waiting and waiting and it just never rocked up, and the language barrier made it even harder. But yeah, got a private, very luxurious transfer in the end, so it all worked out well in the end. Just a pity I spent less time in the lounge. It did mean the flight review was a little bit rushed and a little bit unsynchronized. But never mind, it is what it is. Pretty interesting island, New Caledonia. Definitely recommend you visit there, especially if you're coming from Australia or New Zealand. Very easy place to visit. Well, it is quite different in some ways to back in Australia and New Zealand. Another very Qantas looking at business class meal there. There doesn't seem to be a huge amount of variety on Qantas business class flights.
During the remaining few hours of the flight, the crew did several rounds, offering several red and white.
But yeah, at least this flight wasn't very busy, so I thought the service was really good. Maybe, yeah, it was just because it was a quieter flight, but yeah, definitely meant good service on this flight. Great landing into good old Brisbane Vegas there at sunset on a beautiful, actually quite warm winter's afternoon. Beautiful climate in Queensland at that time of year. Great time to visit southeast Queensland. Alrighty, next up we've got our first ever train review on the channel. That's when we reviewed New South Wales train link Canberra to Sydney service. Have taken this service once before, that was a long time ago. Actually used to study in Canberra for 1.5 years, so quite familiar with Canberra. Travelled between Canberra and Sydney quite a lot, usually by bus. But yeah, I was really keen to try the train this time and do a review on it.
Many times, most notably by coach.
Yeah, audio's a little bit poor on this one, so I do apologise. Not the most exciting scene there in the carriage with people masked up looking at their phone.
Unfortunately, train tickets do not include a free local transfer to and from the station or elsewhere in Canberra. Unless staying nearby, your best bet will
pretty dated old Explorer train there. I think they're Explorer trains. They get the job done for, the 4-hour service that it is. Pretty well filmed the whole journey all the way from Canberra to the first stop in Queanbeyan. I think it was around 20 minutes or so. If you're familiar, the city of Queanbeyan is a satellite city to Canberra. It's actually in New South Wales, so a lot of people cross the border daily to work and live and study and do whatever in the nation's capital. So yeah, really great scenery on the train down to Sydney. much busier central station there in Sydney. Next time I'm there, I'm hoping I'll be arriving on the XPT overnight sleeper from Melbourne Southern Cross Station. So hopefully I can make it happen next month when I'm over east.
Please also visit my website, AussieJetSetter.com.au, which I'll put a link to.
Sound a bit of a novice there with my call to action to subscribe and visit my
I've just got off the Airport Link train, which is a very convenient way to get from the centre of Sydney to either the two domestic terminals or the international terminal in only around 13 to 15 minutes.
Thank you,
Well, I must
Jetstar,
warn it is a rather
sending me
rip-off,
a text at
steep
9 o'clock
price of
tonight
$18 to $19, depending on the time of day you travel, which is a sharp increase
over for the
over
first
any
time.
of the regular suburban stations
In a way,
on the
it's
network.
kind of a pity I didn't
Putting aside this
get to
bit of a
experience that,
partner
considering
airline
the Neos are
status,
becoming more the
and of
predominant
course those flying business, so
321
I think
these days.
Virgin always do a good job of finding that sweet spot for their rank. Afternoon.
So yeah, I couldn't get an economy reward seat at
evening.
the last minute, but I could
Virgin
get a
in this
business
lounge
one
very
at the
much
last
has-
minute. So I think I started away with 38,000 velocity points, something like that. Once again, great view of the plane there, but I should have been doing the aircraft information
But yeah,
there
after
like I do
being
in my videos
prompted
now.
to board first, obviously with my priority boarding. I
Much
was
better
one of the first on the
pre-departure
plane, and the
service
pre-departure
on
service
Virgin.
started
You
shortly
get
after taking my
pre-departure
seat.
sparkling or
Pre-departure drinks were offered.
water.
You got a choice of either sparkling water or sparkling wine, which was probably a rather stark improvement compared to my flight over to Sydney in business with Qantas, where there wasn't anything.
So yeah, this is definitely probably my top 5 most successful flight reviews as well. Definitely approaching 7,000, 6,000-7,000 views, I believe.
Services between Australia's capital cities. Unfortunately, you know, after Virgin went into receivership during the height of COVID, with its new owners, Bain Capital, the airline has decided to no
Getting all a
longer
bit
operate
technical
its Airbus
there,
A330
deep into the
wide
background
bodies,
of Virgin
which,
Australia and the
about
financial
4
crisis they
years
went
ago
through
now,
during
I believe,
COVID.
I
Do you like
got to experience their
me
lie flat
going
business
in depth
class,
about the background of
between
airlines
Perth
or
and
not?
Melbourne,
Let
which
me know
is
in the
really a
comments below.
phenomenal product. So unfortunately, yeah, they don't operate the wide bodies and do not have seat that high.
There's our chicken parmy. It was really good. I didn't really think you'd get one
They do
in
have
the air, but yeah, it was a good meal
streaming to your own
on
device, which you
Virgin
can
in
watch.
business class.
A reasonable but not
Generally
overly
find the
censored
Virgin
range of
seats are a bit
TV
more
shows and
comfortable
movies.
as well compared to good old Qantas. Here's our landing back into a very wintry Perth night. Amazing city to fly into, Perth. Always know why they call it the City of Lights. Here's our all too common landing music. Do you like it or not? I'm definitely thinking of giving it a refresh next year in terms of the music for the channel. Maybe cutting down a bit on the takeoff and landing footage as well. Maybe it's a little bit excessive. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Anyway, moving on to another huge treasure trove of content that came from this trip over to New Zealand and around over east was my huge New Zealand series. So yeah, this didn't really garner a huge amount of views, usually only a couple hundred views per video, but yeah, I was just passionate about filming all my bus journey around New Zealand, showing the raw beauty of New Zealand.
Which is quite surprising.
So here's our day 7 in New Zealand. Spectacular drive from Christchurch to Franz Joseph
and now we've got a beautifully spectacular clear day
via
ahead.
going over the
So yeah,
Arthur's
today will
Pass.
be
So
one of the most exciting
unbelievable
drive
day in
days
New
on the
Zealand.
whole
The
trip
weather
around
was
New Zealand.
absolutely
We're going to be
beautiful.
basically
Even though there was
crossing
snow
one side of the
everywhere up
country
on the
or one
Arthur's
side
Pass,
South Island
the
to
weather was
other,
actually
on about
quite
a
nice out
5-hour
in the
drive
sun.
or 384
Cold, but,
kilometre journey between Christchurch
crisp,
and the Franz Joseph Glacier.
So yeah,
village.
it's definitely one of the most
So
all-time
today's
beautiful
drive's gonna
places in
take
the
us
world,
out
New
through
Zealand.
the
So
Canterbury Plains, Then we're going to go through the spectacular Arthur's Pass.
Most of these videos are pretty
which
well
is-
dead. They're not really getting impressions, so I think it's going to be hard to revive them, but if you just want to see the amazing scenery of New Zealand from a GoPro, the stabilisation on these things are phenomenal. So if you just want to see the scenery of New Zealand, do give the series a watch. Very dramatic cinematic music there I found in the YouTube audio library. Certainly use that at dramatic scenic points in many of my videos. Look at that. You wouldn't think you're in New Zealand with that much snow on the side of the road. You'd think you're in like Norway or somewhere like that, where I did a separate video series on as well. Yeah, let's showcase a few more videos just quickly from the New Zealand series. I certainly won't have time to showcase them all. We'll be here all day.
Welcome to the ski resort.
But yeah, here's another one where I really put my GoPro to good use. We go mountain biking in nearby Tongariro, Old Coach Road. So look at that amazing viaduct there.
The little chalets that we were staying in. Unfortunately, the ski conditions.
Just so cool how you can attach GoPros to basically everything.
Spectacular cruise in this part of the spectacular part.
Here's
of
our
Fiordland
drive
National
from
Park.
Queenstown to Tianu. Obviously we're cruising Milford Sound here, so that's pretty unbelievable. Amazingly, the weather was actually pretty good on the day. One of the wettest places in New Zealand, if not the world, so the fact that it wasn't raining that day is an absolute incredibly unlikely. Mount Tarawara, hiking down a volcano, that was pretty cool. And here's our drive day, I think into Queenstown. The drive into Queenstown is always absolutely phenomenal, as is obviously flying in or out of Queenstown as well. Again, another beautiful day in New Zealand. Up here in the North Island at Tongariro, believe it or not, actually found the north a lot colder and quite miserable in terms of weather. Wet, cold, windy, but beautiful as well at Tongariro.
I'd really appreciate it if you could like it, subscribe it, and hit the bell button.
Moving on, we've got my Tasmanian road trip series. I released this one after getting back from New Zealand and doing the New Zealand series. This is a retrospective series. This is from my 2020 trip to Tasmania. I didn't have a YouTube channel at the time, had an old GoPro. It was only 1080p. As you can see, the stabilization wasn't that great at the time. But yeah, this is just what I filmed for my own personal enjoyment at the time. Never knew I'd be doing a YouTube channel. But yeah, I still managed to conjure up a real highlight series, give you some amazing drives all the way through Tasmania. Amazing beaches, the highlands, the lakes, the forests. It's one of my all-time favourite places. Definitely the most unique place in Australia, in my opinion. So yeah, these obviously didn't get a huge amount of views. Obviously the channel was very small at the time. And yeah, it's not the latest camera that I filmed it on. Oh yeah, there's a very shaky wine glass bay there. I don't really know why it's so shaky. I did have it on a handle. Back to that dramatic cinematic music again. Oh, why am I got a thumb finger in that way?
St. Clair. It's a very early start this morning, so we're getting going at the crack of dawn.
Sometimes you just can't help weather. I'd rather still capture the moment, even if the weather's not great, but yeah, naturally poor weather can affect the retention of viewers to a scenery-based video, I would guess.
Quite a detour along the way, and we're going to go all the way south to the Mountfield National Park, explore that a bit.
That map didn't really give much accuracy or a proper reflection on today's journey, as we did this huge detour south towards near Hobart, Mountfield National Park. Then we all went up through the Central Highlands, so that was a very simplistic map, didn't really showcase fully how it was going to be work out.
Intertwined with green forest.
Also go New Caledonia series. Here's some highlights from the unbelievable Blue River Provincial Park here in New Caledonia. Didn't have much time in New Caledonia, but just had one spare day to do a day trip, so this is why I decided, and absolutely was not disappointed. Very unique landscape here in New Caledonia. Quite tropical along the coast, but a bit more Australiana-like inland. Quite a rare earth sort of look to it as well. So yeah, go New Caledonia. I see a lot of the YouTube aviation fellow YouTube aviation people out there all seem to be going New Caledonia as well.
It's the largest city in the whole.
So yeah, walking tours. The walking tour of Normia was my first ever walking tour on the channel. To me it seemed like quite a basic sort of video. Didn't really, you know, go too much out of the way in editing and that, but it was a real success. Got over 7,000 views, so absolutely wrapped, and it's still getting steady traction today.
Walk around Normia and the various beaches and bays.
But yeah, I must have walked 30 kilometres that day. It was a huge walk.
To a lovely sunny New Year's Day in Perth, Western Australia.
Alrighty, going towards 2023, I literally kicked it off with a walking tour in my hometown of Perth, and that was an immediate hit on the channel. Got over 6,000 views, and it still gets a few views today.
Highlights of the city and the Swan River. So firstly, we're going to start at Elizabeth Quay bus station.
At this point I've now got my DJI OM5 gimbal, so hopefully you're seeing a little bit better result in terms of stabilization for things like walking tours, that sort of stuff. I think I did have the DJI gimbal for the New Caledonia and New Zealand trip as well, but yeah, when I filmed the Normia walking tour it was kind of rainy, so yeah, in inclement weather I do have to go with the GoPro, which has slightly less stabilization without a gimbal of course, but they're pretty good, the GoPro 10 to be honest. So all up in 2022, the first year of the AussieJetSetter YouTube channel, you can see out of the total of 41 flight, train, ferry and bus reviews on the channel, 10 of them came from 2022. So that was a very, very solid start for the channel indeed, I thought. To kick things off, however, in 2023, we headed off to Melbourne again, and we ought to try the Virgin Australia relaunch business class product as we flew from Perth to Melbourne. Things off the flight reviews in 2023, I really thought it was a good idea to vanish the faceless YouTube channel forever and start getting a little bit more interactive with my flight reviews. So yeah, really pleased I finally started doing on-screen intros and occasionally outros to my videos.
Get checked in and head to lounge.
Probably a bit of a needless walking up and down the outside of the airport there, but anyway.
Terminal 1 here in Perth, you want to head to the left-hand side of the
probably a bit of an overstatement to say it was a very busy, but there's definitely more people around than you thought.
Now that we're inside, you'll see on the left-hand side, Virgin Australia in Perth pretty well has a fully automated arches. It's
a great place for plane spotting, isn't it, really, Perth? Always good vantage points at Perth Airport. There's a public indoor observation deck there.
Look at the Spire Lounge over at Terminal 2. It's been 4:30 in the morning. There wasn't a huge amount of food on offer.
I really don't know why I bothered visiting the domestic Aspire Lounge. Really is not much at that time of morning. Really over the top to be reviewing 2 lounges when I've already got Virgin lounge access this morning. Very cool 737-7, that one without the livery there, you know.
Doesn't have any livery or
bit of a wanderless aimer around the Virgin lounge there.
Could have been slightly better.
Real food critic, aren't I there?
The only thing that was a bit odd was 5:30 in the morning.
There's a Fokker 100. There's that old A330 that only recently left Perth Airport. It was parked out on the tarmac for a very long time, not being used.
Making its way taxing into the terminal. And yeah, you've got plenty of Fokker 100s.
Definitely FIFO hour at this time of morning in Perth.
Slightly smaller than Qantas's very similar offering on the Boeing 737, where they have 3 rows for 12 seats. As you can see, the seats on Virgin Australia in business class are very much
until the prior year I hadn't really flown Virgin business class that much. Had a few times before. But yeah, they were definitely saying it was a relaunched business class product at the time. I think that was more in terms of the revised offerings that were slimmed down initially during COVID, kind of returning back to normal. So I think that was what the relaunched business class was about.
We've got yoga and also a nice...
Definitely reckon the presentation is a little bit better on VA for catering. That's just my opinion. Made that breakfast look pretty good, I reckon.
Breakfast this morning on Virgin Australia. Certainly can't complain.
Early morning beer, why not? Going to Melbourne. Best week of the year, Aussie Open, so why not? Amazing scenery there, always great flying over the Bight.
Great views from approximately 38,000 feet above sea level. Only takes about 2 hours, and we're finally making landfall over the Eyre Peninsula in South Australia. You see how that flight goes.
This is the Embraer E190 flight, the so-called Alliance Airlines operated flight.
Actually did it once before between
seemed to be all
Perth
Qantas
and
from what I could see.
On Virgin, located in kind of the Qantas.
There's a big Qantas lounge, makes the old Perth one look a bit small.
I'm seeing Fokker 100.
There's our good old Embraer. I love the Embraer.
All sorts of different planes.
Don't know why I was saying there was Fokker 100s in Melbourne. I think I meant Boeing 717s.
busy at all having a look at the gate, and boarding was actually announced a few minutes early, and everyone was on the plane and comfortably seated in
I really like the
no
Embraer.
time.
I like the 2-2
Despite
configuration.
everyone getting all boarded nice
Seems a
and
bit more
early and
comfy
all
than the
ready
737-800 in my
with this sort
opinion.
of catering, because I've had them on quite a few.
Oh yeah, we were flying up to Townsville, by the way, I forgot to say. Great landing coming into Townsville. I didn't really quite realise how big Townsville was coming from Perth, but yeah, it's the biggest city in Northern Australia. Absolutely well worth visiting. Actually a lot of military activity up there as well. Big RAF base based in Townsville. Here's our next flight. It was on the Q400, little dash up to Cairns. Really enjoyed this flight. Good flight up the tropical coastline of Queensland. Saw lots of nice islands along the way. Sure, the Great Barrier Reef was somewhere down there.
So that should provide for some really great views as the engine powers up.
From Nexus Airlines, the new airline in WA. The Q400's not that common in WA, so it was a great opportunity to fly whilst I was over east. Always love sitting underneath the landing gear on these little turboprops. Always much fun.
Which is not
Back
too
in
far
Melbourne,
from
we did
Melbourne.
another
It's
impromptu
about,
train review as well.
115 kilometres away by road, or about an hour and 20 minutes by train.
Put a beeline
Ballarat
velocity
is very
over to
historic,
Ballarat for the day. It was a nice
gold
little
mining
day
city.
trip.
It's the third
Filmed a
largest
really
population
successful
in
walking tour
Victoria,
there while I was
just
there.
over 100,000 people. So the majority ticket sort of in advance, or you have a dedicated.
I think I did my research about the facts and information and how to ride this train, so yeah, I think it's okay.
From about the first service, which is around 5 o'clock in the morning, to the last service, which leaves
not a huge amount to review about the facilities and amenities on the train itself, apart from that they're perfectly adequate. But yeah, it's a nice journey. I think with the Canberra to Sydney and also the Melbourne to Ballarat review, I didn't caption the stations, didn't give any real information about the stations we were passing through, or the towns or the settlements. That's what I changed for the Northern Explorer review and also the Prospector review. So yeah, I took your feedback on board, hopefully improve for future train reviews.
Good evening and welcome to Canberra International
This is my
Airport.
flight from Cairns back to Perth. This is the second leg. There's my plane that took us from Cairns down to Canberra. And yeah, this is a economy Qantas flight from Canberra to Perth direct.
Cairns to Perth, but due to trying to book a flight at last minute, the direct flights from Cairns to Perth were quite expensive. So I settled for this Qantas Rewards redemption.
Obviously still a bit of a novice to vlogging at this point in time, so need to get the camera angles a little bit better when filming, but never mind. At least I gave it a go. It's good plane spotting airport here in Canberra. Always way too big a terminal for what really needs in Canberra. I guess that's where all our taxpayer money is going to. It's a pretty hot, dusty afternoon in Canberra, high 30s. So yeah, it's a warm summer's evening as we take off bound for Perth. There's absolutely incredible views on this flight. We really chased the sun out west as we crossed the Nullarbor and the 3-hour time zone. So yeah, it seemed like the sun was setting pretty well the whole flight. food was pretty good on that flight, to be honest. Pretty generous serving, and they even offered seconds. Once again, amazing landing coming into Perth here. Bit fuzzy the footage even in 4K, but yeah, sometimes it's unavoidable on a wintry dark night. Once I got back from this big trip over east, I then proceeded to do a bit more travelling around my own state of West Australia. So yeah, did lots of driving videos as I produced a travel series covering my videos around West Australia. So we did lots of scenic drives as we drove quite lengthy distances in West Australia. You can see this Kalgoorlie to Esperance drive was one of my most memorable. Very interesting changes of scenery indeed, from the outback to the coast. Next up, we've got a Bunbury driving tour. This was an incredibly popular video, got over 3,000 views and is still quite popular to this day. So yeah, Bunbury's city around about 180 kilometres or about a 2 or so hour drive south of Perth, the biggest regional city in West Australia. That's if you don't count Mandurah. So yeah, I was blown away by how successful this video was. Quite a hit indeed. Here's another one as we drive through the Stirling Ranges and the Brongarup National Park on the way from Bremer Bay to the regional city of Albany. Very cool landscapes there indeed. Probably do need a refresh on my music for some of these driving videos next year, however, as yeah, you probably are thinking they are getting a bit repetitive. Oh, alrighty. We also had plenty of content from our over east trip the previous year, so I purposed a lot of those videos into content as well. In Canberra, I got on e-scooters and scooted around all of Canberra, all the main institutions and around Lake Burla Griffith and that sort of stuff. We didn't get too much traction in this video, but I thought it was really cool, explaining how you can explore Canberra really cheaply by e-scooter. Did several different e-scooter videos in Canberra as well. Also did a hike up Mount Annesley as well. Meanwhile in Sydney, I focused on the ferries. We've got the iconic Manly ferry. Also went out to a few other harbour islands as well. Once again, didn't really get much traction in these videos, but yeah, if you want to see amazing views of Sydney Harbour and the Opera House, the Harbour Bridge, all that sort of stuff on a pretty changeable winter's afternoon, then yeah, this is a video to watch. Very iconic ferry, the Manly ferry. And the best price about it was that it was half price being on a Sunday. So yeah, 218 views on that. Pity it didn't get a bit more traction. Did lots of cool stuff in Queensland. Did an e-scooter bike tour, e-scooter tour around Brizzy. That was pretty cool, around the Brisbane River. Did lots of stuff up north as well. Got my Townsville walking tour review. That's very popular. Did lots of stuff from Magnetic Island as well.
Or just a 20-minute.
Got the local bus service, cost me $4.80, and pretty well got to see most of the island. Absolutely was wrapped. What a place, Magnetic Island, just off the coast of Townsville.
I've got a $4.80 day pass, so I'm going to show you all around the island and by road, and I'm going to go out to all.
Well, I was at Magnetic Island. I also did the Forts Walk as well. That was a really cool historic hike / history lesson. So that was really cool.
Cool. We started at Nelly Bay here, getting off the ferry. So we're going to.
You like this song? Does it seem to give a relaxed island, beachy vibe to it? Or am I mistaken in my understanding? Let me know. I was really surprised it wasn't pouring down with rain in North Queensland in the middle of January, to be honest. So, quite blessed with the weather, to be honest. Alrighty, I was eager to produce even more and more content. So, I looked at my old GoPro files from my epic 2 trips to the good old USA. And I found plenty of gems. Once again, this is my old GoPro, or maybe my old iPhone 7 or something like that. But yeah, this is cruising along the river here along New York. What an amazing city. You can't beat that skyline. It's the most iconic looking city in the world, I reckon. Can't wait to visit North America again and do proper walking tours and that sort of stuff. But yeah, there's plenty of good stuff there. All the national parks, all that sort of stuff. So if you want to get a feel for it, please do check it out. Also did, once again, repurpose some of my content into a Norway series. Once again, this is my 2019 trip to Norway. Before I had the YouTube channel, but yeah, it's absolutely breathtaking, the scenery up in Scandinavia, Norway, Pacific. So try to put something together with Norway, and yeah, I think you'll really enjoy it if you get around to watching it. Next up, we went to a standalone trip to Singapore.
Operated for several years under the City Flyer brand for Qantas. Then it moved.
Took a A330 from Terminal 3, which is usually a domestic airport here in Perth, and we flew up to Singapore. This is the best value $500 I've spent in aviation spending in a long time, especially after the pandemic. I reckon full service flight to and from Singapore, $600, $299 each way, absolute steal. Unbelievable views flying out of Perth there. One of my most popular standalone flight takeoff and landing videos from this, I think it got over 1,200 views. Other one, interestingly enough, was the landing into Dunedin with Air New Zealand. That surpassed over 2,000 views, which is actually more views than the review itself. Absolutely kicking myself. I had autofocus issues with my camera coming into Singapore, as straight to Singapore, and all that shipping was absolutely spectacular. Nonetheless, once it did refocus, the landing was really, really cool. Yeah, $298 each way. That was an absolute steal. When I saw that, had to get on it. Here's our return flight. Don't know why I didn't do an in-person vlog at the start of the last one up to Singapore, but at least I've done it here from Jewel before my flight in Singapore back to Perth.
But yeah, I've got to the airport about 6 hours early today because I want to check out Changi Jewel Airport.
So yeah, I had big plans to do a whole video on Jewel, which I did do. Only got a couple hundred views, but yeah. Got to Singapore, Changi early for the purpose of checking out Jewel, which was pretty cool.
Scoot,
And
Qatar
yeah, also
Airways,
wanted to do
Qantas,
lounge hopping
we're
with priority
airside
pass
now.
as well.
In
Try as
Terminal
many
1, you
lounges
can
as I
easily
could.
take
So
SkyTrain to
that was
Terminal
my
2
rationale
or
behind
Terminal
getting to
3,
the
and I think
airport so
there's
early.
airside bus transfer to Terminal 4 as well if you need.
Good place for filming at Changi Airport. Plenty of people around, plenty of other people doing it as well. So if you are a little bit uncomfortable filming in public, Changi is one of the airports you're going to merge in a little bit easier with.
Singapore Changi Airport's an absolute maze of a place, absolutely huge. So if you do have lots of time to spare, it's definitely worth.
Yeah, so this particular point I was using GoPro with media mod when it's not directly facing you and it's, you know, facing to what you're filming in front. It's not that great audio. Just keep that in mind. So yeah, my content from Singapore itself didn't do that well, to be great. The Singapore walking tour had high hopes, only got 260 views. The Sentosa walking tour, that's done pretty well. It's got around 900 views or so, still gets an odd view here and there. Next up, a day later after returning from Singapore, we went to New Zealand again. Just wanted to see even more of the place I'd visited many times before. And this is the most interesting, unique flight I've probably taken of the year, and probably my most successful flight. We flew Wamos Air, aka the Air New Zealand wet lease flight, all the way to Auckland.
Terminal 1. I've just got off the fairly new train line that first opened here back.
I think this is one of my better starts
year.
to the video.
I
think it's a reasonably engaging start here.
All the way from Bayswater,
it's interesting showing the viewers the new train station here in Perth, the line out to the airport.
This time.
And yeah, I think the on-camera stuff is good as well.
The self-service check-in kiosk for a second time, I still can't help but notice there's
the Aspire Lounge in Perth, I was absolutely blown away by. Definitely the best priority pass lounge I've been to. The design is absolutely amazing. Pity it just took up a lot of the room from the public observation deck, however.
Quickly, everything about the lounge is impressive.
Here's our Spanish Wamos plane down there.
It's a really classy place. It has a
probably did ramble on a little bit about the 3-hour check-in window and having to wait around for 15-20 minutes. That's be a little bit over the top, but anyway, that's what I did in the review.
Good indeed. So yeah, this usual A3
seems to be a very controversial flight, this Wamos flight. It's actually recently, it's going to actually be reinstated in a couple months' time on the Perth to Auckland route. People have widely different opinions on it. Some people say it's trash, some people say it's almost as good as Air New Zealand, even better in some regards.
Anyway, on to the dinner service for tonight. So we're offered a reasonably well portioned and tasty meal tonight.
Entertainment was fairly basic.
Was, you know, under the
arrival into Auckland was a little bit dishevelled. But at least we got an amazing view of the tarmac on the bus with all those Air New Zealand jets. But yeah, it was chaos at the immigration when I landed, but so many flights coming in. A little bit of a letdown with ground handling here by Air New Zealand in Auckland. So yeah, this flight's actually, it's never gone dead, but had started to slow down in the last few weeks, but now it's resurging again on the news that the flight's been reinstated. So I think that's a lucky day. Next up in New Zealand, you can see we did a whole lot of stuff here. We did also bus reviews as well, and we also did a train review. So yeah, the next review was the Northern Explorer. This is probably the my favourite review that I did for the year. Had very high hopes for this one. Didn't really take off, however. 655 views is nothing to laugh about. It's a decent amount of views.
car.
But yeah, I put a huge amount of effort into this review. But yeah, I absolutely amazed. The experience was unbelievable, so no regrets whatsoever.
So now I think we've very much spent
probably not starting at Auckland Strand Station, which is a lot grander and flashier than this. That's probably what set the video down. It's good that I was able to do a bit of vlogging on the train, on the journey itself. Outdoor viewing carriage is a place to be on this train. Absolutely love the feeling, you know, the open air, hearing the diesel train, locomotive, all that sort of stuff.
So now while we're at it,
yeah, it was a beautiful day for it as well. Pretty mild for New Zealand conditions, mid-teens, beautiful weather,
and it's the largest active
snow-capped
volcano
mountains.
actually in the whole
What
of
more
New
could you
Zealand.
want?
It's pretty well the highest point in the North Island, with the highest peak.
So yeah, I think it's probably just starting in Hamilton. A bit too much talking, a bit too much waiting around to actually get on the train. That's probably what's hurt this video. Didn't get to the X Factor quick enough. But never mind, you live and you learn.
Between these two original Iron Truss viaducts in the Mangawaki Deep. Years ago, been absolutely breathtaking journey. We've gone through the highlands, Tongariro National Park,
Probably need to get a lavalier microphone or a Rode wireless microphone or something if I'm going to do on-screen vlogging a bit more, especially in noisy, windy environments like that. So definitely something I'll be looking into in 2024. Coming along the Capri coast at sunset, pretty spectacular sight actually.
Very cool.
Took a little turboprop ATR 72 flight. I was so blown away by how cheap this flight was. I think it was only about $100 or something with luggage. Certainly not going to get that on a Qantas Link turboprop flight. No security screening for an ATR flight in New Zealand, even if it's from a big airport, so that's quite a shock to me. Just boarding a plane without going on security.
Have the buy on board menu, and then obviously on longer international flights.
Don't get much on an Air New Zealand domestic flight apart from tea and coffee and a cookie time snack. But yeah, it was a perfectly fine short little flight to Napier with a beautiful landing as well. Pity the camera seemed to be a little bit flickery at the time, but never mind. Here's our Air New Zealand flight down to Dunedin from Wellington. That was being threatening to be cancelled at the last minute due to fog.
Domestic Airbus A320 aircraft come installed with 171 seats in a free configuration across 29 roads. Seat pitch on this aircraft ranges quite a lot, from 30 to 34 inches depending on where you're sitting. But
there's this unbelievable landing into Dunedin that I nearly didn't get when my iPhone played up with storage issues when it had enough storage. Luckily I had my GoPro at my seat, so I whipped that out to recapture the last part of the landing sequence, stitched the two together, and I got a video that is my most successful landing video ever on YouTube for the channel. Over 2,000 views, more than the channel itself. So yeah, a little bit quick thinking to whip out that GoPro to complete the landing. Really pay dividends for this one. It's about -2 degrees this landing. Absolutely spectacular clear morning. Thrilled the fog had finally lifted. Next up, we introduce bus reviews for the channel.
This is our bus stop over here. It's
once again just outside Countdown. That's a famous saying from my New Zealand trip. So yeah, nothing flashy about the start of this review on the side of the street in a windy, wintry Dunedin day. But yeah, I'm not here to show you everything flashy all the time. I'm here to give you practical information about ways you can travel around the place as well. So I thought this video was very well received. Got over 1,000 views. And yeah, it was almost threatening to snow on the way from Dunedin to Queenstown. It was certainly snowing up on those mountain roads later that night. Funnily enough, the bus driver from that day actually found my video and commented and thanked me for travelling. So thank you so much for watching my video. Here's our flight back to Australia on Virgin Australia. Redeem this one with points continuing on to Perth. What an amazing start to this video. The drive out of Queenstown Airport is absolutely spectacular. A little bit surprised it didn't hook a few more people in, to be honest, but it's still a good performing video.
It's also going to be special significance for me today, as I'm essentially retiring my passport, which I've used for the last 10 years. It's barely a couple of weeks off being legal for most countries.
So yeah, that was the last time I used my previous passport. So yeah, it was a very significant flight in that regard. Pretty good lounge, the Mania Lounge in Queenstown. Very, very friendly service there. And there's our plane there. Very hard to miss our flight here when you can see it right from the gate. So yeah, no rush to get to the plane from this lounge.
Welcome back. My name is Stephen. I produce lots and lots 2-row 2-2 configuration of business class at the pointy end of the plane.
So yeah, I got bumped up to an economy X seat on this one. I was always a little bit suspicious because I had pre-reserved a window seat, so I didn't want to lose that window seat just to get an exit row seat, but they assured me it'd still be an exit window. I think I probably would have got better views on the other side though nonetheless. But yeah, it is an unbelievable takeoff out of Queenstown. Must be one of the most beautiful takeoffs in the world. Pity the fairly overcast conditions, damaged the quality of the video a little bit, I guess, the wow factor, but you can't control the weather, can you? So yeah, we pretty well took off, flew back to Sydney, and then yeah, later that night I flew another Virgin Australia 737 flight back to Perth, which is a fairly uneventful flight, so the review did pretty well, to be honest, so by all means check out that one, but I haven't included it in this yearly review. So yeah, one of the big parts of my recent New Zealand trip was walking tours, and they performed incredibly well. Some of my best performing videos on the channel were walking tours from New Zealand. Hamilton, Wellington, Taronga and Dunedin were all very strong performers. Most of them had 4,000 or 5,000 views. Taronga over 2,000. So here's our Wellington walking tour here. Has well over 4,000 views. Still very popular to this day. Here's our
Good
Dunedin
afternoon.
walking tour,
Welcome to
one of the
another
most
one of my
historic
walking
cities
tours.
in
This
New
afternoon
Zealand.
we find ourselves
Beautiful
in the
place
lovely
down in
city
the
of Dunedin.
Otago region
Dunedin
of
has
New
a
Zealand.
population of around 130,000 people, makes it the 7th largest city currently in the whole of Aotearoa, New Zealand. It's located in the Otago
Beautiful
region of
gardens
the
and
south.
hills in Dunedin as well. It's actually got the steepest street in the world, believe it or not. So yeah, I think the quality you get when you use the gimbal turns out to be pretty good. Did use a lot of background music in my walking tours across the year. I've been very careful not to trigger YouTube's content ID when you're walking past a restaurant or a bar or in a shop or saying they're playing music, even though it's not you putting the music out there, it could still get flagged. So very cautious. But yeah, I've tried to be a little less sensitive to it lately and it hasn't been picked up. So yeah, I'm going to try and use less music in the future. Because at the end of the day, if it does get picked up, you can always just replace it with YouTube music anyway. Next up, once we got back to Perth, we did a quick weekend trip to Kalgoorlie.
Perth through to Kalgoorlie, which is the largest city in the Australian outback. We're getting the Prospector train. It's going to be about a 7-hour journey today, and it takes 653 kilometres.
So yeah, this is our Prospector review.
Trains in the whole of Australia. Quite possibly
certainly
the
hasn't had
fastest
rapid
train
performance
when it
this
comes to
review,
average
but
speed.
it's had a steady
Despite living
stream
in
of
Perth
views. It's
all
now got
my
about
life,
1,200
I've
views.
certainly driven
So
to
pretty happy
Kalgoorlie, but I
overall
haven't
there.
actually taken the train, so it's something I've always wanted to do. So yeah, let's head over and get checked in.
Here's one of our local Transperth trains here in Perth that I used to get from Perth Station through to East Perth, where the Prospector leaves from. So yeah, very fun train trip to get this Prospector. Some people argue it's the fastest average speed passenger train in Australia in terms of the distance it covers in the period of time that it does.
Obviously the Prospector or the Trans-WA regional coaches. So yeah, there doesn't seem to be, the office doesn't seem... In terms of luggage allowance, you're allowed to take 7 kilos of carry-on on board the train, and you're also allowed to take a check bag up to 20 kilos. Well, you don't have to check it in at the office or anything more than bus shelters on the side of the track, to be honest. Notable stations,
should have studied the seat mat a little bit. Still got a window, but only got half a window as opposed to other seats, which you get a full window. So yeah, this is going out of the Alban Valley. This is once we've passed Southern Cross here. This is the fastest speeds the train travels. I think it reaches up to nearly 160 kilometres an hour. So yeah, that's as fast as you're going to get in Australia. So yeah, the journey takes about a little under 7 hours. 600 kilometres, saying
it is within easy walking distance. So like there's also taxis available at the front of the station as well, should you need them. It's fascinating to believe as we now have another final look at our beautiful Prospector train here today. Kalgoorlie Railway Station is certainly not the end of the line.
I think I've tried to be really informative with this review. Definitely given history of all the stations and towns along the way.
Australia thing, they really just operate them in West Australia.
Here's our QantasLink flight back to Perth the next day.
320s in West Australia. So yeah,
without further ado before I continued talking even more about the Diggers and Dealers conference. Pretty cool that was in town while I was there.
National Mining Conference in Australia kicks off tomorrow. So yeah, there was about 7 to 8 flights from Perth to Kalgoorlie today, There was even a special
It's just notched up 1,000 views this review, so yeah, I guess that's doing okay. Great that I was able to literally do a plane spotting session at this airport, which I've got on the YouTube channel. And yeah, I was literally able to plane spot my own plane and do the flight information, the aircraft information, right from outside the fence while plane spotting the plane.
To be honest, looks like I was first ordered by Jetstar Asia around.
So I think it'll give you a good history on the plane here.
This order wasn't taken up. Somehow it got in the hands of
Actually using my DSLR camera with a 250mm lens in a flight review, so I think that's pretty impressive. Don't usually get the opportunity to do that for most flight reviews.
Then it was taken over by Jetstar Asia in February 2010. Before then, coming over to Network Aviation and of course QantasLink in October 2020, where it's been operated by Network a few minutes at cruising altitude.
So yeah, I think my title and thumbnail were pretty irrelevant here. It is a pretty empty flight. You can understand why for the reasons I outlined in the flight. And yeah, the service was good, if the seating is quite cramped, so it was a good that I had the whole aisle to my seat.
In-flight service and crew today. Really appreciated the QantasLink hospitality.
So yeah, soon after getting back from that little weekend trip to Kalgoorlie, in the few weeks and months before I headed to Sri Lanka, I really got into plane spotting at the Perth Airport observation deck. But yeah, with my new DSLR camera, got some amazing shots such as this Emirates A380 coming in at golden hour, dusk here at runway 3 in Perth, so that was a real highlight. That was an amazing afternoon when I got runway 3 on a Sunday afternoon. All sorts of aircraft. We had the Scoot 787-8. I thought that was a pretty good landing. Also got to see the good old Wamos Air A330 come in as well. That was a pretty good landing as well. So yeah, there's many Perth Airport plane spotting videos on the channel now in a dedicated playlist. Also got special plane spotting sessions as well, just one-off ones at this point in time, from Melbourne, Busselton, Margaret River and Kalgoorlie, and also Melbourne as well. This is unbelievable scenes when Emirates A380 did an aborted landing. Totally wasn't expecting it. Had the camera on the tripod, then it started rotating towards up again, and that was one of the most exciting moments plane spotting, but also one of the most stressful trying to get on camera, as I was frantically trying to disconnect my camera from the tripod without screwing up the footage. So yeah, I didn't probably capture it that well, but I wasn't kind of configured to capture the taking off plane, so. But yeah, once I managed to get the camera off the tripod, came out alright. Probably using a little bit too much zoom on the runway 21 takeoff, to be honest. Maybe I can do a little bit less zoom next year. Because I was essentially filming landings on 55 and takeoffs on 255. Lots of 321 Jetstar Neos these days in Perth. Actually be flying one to Adelaide if all goes to plan in early January, so looking forward to kickstarting the year with a new flight review from Jetstar. Next up, to finish our amazing 2023, a real year of expansion on the channel, we headed out on a big Asian adventure which started with 2 weeks in Sri Lanka. Part of getting there, we had to fly AirAsia X up to Kuala Lumpur before we got a regular AirAsia flight to Colombo. It's a really good flight review, this, one of my most successful flight reviews of the year.
Good afternoon and welcome to...
Well, this part of the year I started producing little trailer clips to start off my flight reviews and also for my Ultimate Sri Lanka travel series. I think it's definitely been a good addition to the channel, gives a bit of a snapshot of what the flight review, what you can expect to come in it, so I think it's a good thing.
As I'm doing a bit of a tour around Asia over the next month.
Good that I'm doing a bit of a on-camera vlog again before the start of the trip, so that's really good.
So that will be really interesting. We're going to spend a couple of weeks in Sri Lanka. And then
good plane spotting in the lounge up here at the Aspire Lounge again. Certainly didn't disappoint again, that Aspire Lounge.
No longer included with
surprised how good my iPhone 13 Pro Max on a digital zoom did of capturing my A330 landing into Perth.
Anyway, my favourite part of this lounge is absolutely the views you get out over the tarmac and the main
that was a pretty good landing, wasn't it?
At Perth Airport. And just like that, here's our ride coming in from Kuala Lumpur. That's going to take us back up to Malaysia this evening. Seeing we've got great views of our aircraft flying us up to KL tonight, right here from the lounge. Let's have a look at our aircraft information for our ride up to Malaysia tonight. We're flying on an Airbus A330-300 series. Registration number 9 Mike X-ray X-ray 0.
Definitely getting better with my aircraft information, I think.
In April 2015, putting the aircraft at around 8.4 years at time of taking this flight. It's delivered direct off the production line in Toulouse, France. And yeah, it's been a sole operator with AirAsia X ever since. Just before we leave the lounge now to head downstairs and board our plane up to Malaysia tonight, just a little bit of a heads up about how much today's flights cost.
At the back of the bus, that's definitely one of my favourite sayings in flight reviews. Usually where I'm seating.
You'll find there's 365 fairly stock.
Definitely get a seat at the back where it tapers off to 2 to 2. If you want a window or an aisle seat, definitely recommend paying a few extra dollars.
44 backwards, the configuration sort of stuff. For this flight, I've pre-ordered the roast chicken with black pepper sauce, so yeah, later on we'll have a look at how that goes down. But yeah, just looking at the menu, it looks very, very reasonable compared to price.
AirAsia food is phenomenal.
AirAsia's
so cheap and so tasty.
Meal service. You can
never had a bad experience with AirAsia food.
Meals online prior to your flight. They're very, very affordably priced, and the way AirAsia dishes out their service of these meals is with almost military precision. So really, really appreciate that. AirAsia really has.
Alrighty, here was our big Sri Lankan train journey experience from New Elia to Ella.
In the central province region, up here in
this,
the highlands of Sri Lanka.
This Highland train is one of the most famous trains that you can do in Sri Lanka.
Of only around 27.
Certainly had high hopes for it,
beautiful highland
but there's literally dozens or hundreds of very influential YouTubers out there that have covered the same journey, so it's always going to be hard as a small channel to compete in the search results.
In Sri Lanka, as is all forms of public transportation.
So yeah, absolutely check it out. The scenery is absolutely breathtaking on this journey. I'm not doing silly things. I'm not doing anything, attention seeking, standing out the windows or doors. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't do that.
Attractions, whether it's nearby,
I'm just enjoying the ride.
Peak that you can clearly
Maybe that's why it didn't get so many views.
Amazing views of the Sri Lankan.
Probably spent way too long before I actually got on the train itself. That probably hurt the video. Starting the video on a bus instead of the train itself probably didn't help either. But yeah, on fairness, I was on a tour with this, so it was a little bit hard to properly film a high-end production with, with other people and that, so I still thought I caught all the great moments of it, but all the great scenery, so well worth checking out. Certainly an experience, only costs a couple dollars, and yeah, definitely one of the best train experiences you can probably do in the world. It's just such a unique sort of journey. Open air, through the highlands, the cool weather up in the clouds, Yeah, it's one kind of a journey, very unique. It's not, flashy or 5-star or anything like that. But yeah, the train itself, there's nothing to laugh about either. It was perfectly fine, I thought. For the price you pay, it's amazing. But yeah, we pretty well went to the highest town in Sri Lanka on this journey. We pretty well came close to 2,000 meters above sea level. So yeah, you actually should bring a jacket on this train. It can actually get quite cool, believe it or not. Temperatures can get down to about 10 degrees at night. Rarely reach above 20 during the day, so it's a stark contrast to the tropical weather down below. Alrighty, here's our big flagship review of the year. You could say it's perhaps the flagship one. Fanciest business class one I did, the Sri Lankan Airlines review.
Option as well.
Certainly talking up the security at Colombo Airport, aren't I? Sounds very high security from what I'm saying, but in truth it was a high security airport. You pretty well need to go through security to get not too far from the door.
Transfer in advance is definitely my recommendation, especially at this time of morning. Anyway, we're at the airport now. This is one of the airports you're not really going to be dawdling around. As soon as you get there, you have to show your boarding pass just to enter the terminal. And then shortly after that, you've got to go through our preliminary security check just to get into the check-in hall. So yeah, fairly high security airport, this one here.
Probably butchered the name of the airport, didn't I? Anyway, the Serendip Lounge definitely had a few comments about that one in the review, so be sure to check it out in terms of the food there. But yeah, the champers tasted good, even at that early hour.
And who would I ever thought in this beautiful country of Sri
Lots of comical scenes on the tarmac here. Whether I should have featured the tractor incident, the so-called tractor breaking down, I thought it was a funny thing to add to the review. Maybe people thought it was just unnecessarily prolonging it, but yeah, I thought it was funny.
Close down the area and
certainly not commenting on the safety. That's what I observed. I thought it was interesting.
In a forklift, he'll fork it out of the way and
clear you wait for my commentary here.
No time, and things continue on as normal. And just like that, after unsuccessful
good old Sri Lanka. I love the place,
And we got a lift-off on our worst aware Sri Lankan Airlines tractor, which is conked out on the ground crew at Colombo Airport this morning. So with our worst aware Sri Lankan Airlines tractor now well and truly struggling on its way, courtesy of that
trying to get sophisticated, explaining all the business class dining options. Wasn't a bad breakfast on Sri Lankan Airlines. Usually the breakfast sort of flights are the Probably the
There's
least
also
best
a
flight for
ferry
business
option
class
as
catering,
well.
but yeah, it was pretty good.
I'm sure many of you foodies out there, especially when flying Sri Lankan Airlines,
The legroom
will be
on
dying
Sri
to
Lankan
absolutely
Airlines
try one of those
A320
two
must be
Sri
the
Lankan
biggest,
that got allocated
most
for business class.
reclinable,
I reckon
best
that's just my
legroom for a
opinion.
recliner
However,
seat on a business class flight, I
the
would think.
seat, you also get a reasonably good range of amenities. You get a pretty comfortable pillow. You get
Me trying to show off the seat features,
as well, so that could come in handy.
not quite
just
at
in
one
general,
of the
while it
high-end
isn't the most
aviation
modern
YouTubers
business class
just
cabin,
yet. I'll try my
is
best.
A fairly dated product.
Yeah, a bit wobbly there.
The hard product. It is a spacious and a very comfortable cabin, plenty of room. And I think really
not the most flattering in-flight footage, but yeah,
definitely
I captured what the
recliner
rather large
seats, over
business
your
class
Virgin
cabin looked like
Australia
nonetheless.
or Qantas, for example. So yeah, for
Here's our
short-term,
KL to
medium-haul
Langkawi,
flights
under $100
in the
US
Sri Lankan
business
network,
class
I
flight.
think these back from our 2 weeks.
Stuffed up the
amazing
lighting
trip
on the
around Sri
intro,
Lanka.
on-screen
But
intro
anyway,
with this
today's
one.
an exciting day. We're going to
Should
be
have my
flying out to
GoPro light on,
Langkawi,
but
up
somehow I
in the
didn't
north
use
coast
it.
of Malaysia.
So yeah,
It's gonna
it
be
came
my
out really
first time,
dark, but
venturing
somehow I was
out
able
of the Greater
to
Kuala Lumpur
artificially
sort of
play with the
region in Malaysia, so it
settings
should be a
in
really good
LumaFusion,
one.
and it
And
came out
today
better
we're
than I
flying
thought.
Batik Air. We're actually going to be flying in business class.
Pretty cool looking planes, these Batik Air
2015.
737s, nice little livery there.
Owned by Lion Air Group or any of its associated airlines. So yeah, first I flew for Batik Air Indonesia back in April 20. While the economy class seats have a reasonably decent 32 inches of seat pitch. Shortly after taking
I thought it was
seat
pretty
in
good overall, the
row 3A,
Batik
which
Air
is at the rear of the
experience.
business
They
class
certainly
cabin, and
didn't
after being welcomed on
sort
board
of
by a friendly
advertise
cabin
that
crew
you were
member,
going to get
there's
much,
a bottle of water that
but
I
yeah,
find at my seat.
there's certainly
so yeah,
no
that's
champagne
my
or
pre-departure, beverage for
fancy
this
food or
flight.
anything
Really
like that, but you did
expecting
get a meal, a
taxi out of
sandwich,
the runway here
got
at
tea and
KLI
coffee,
International Airport.
and yeah, those
once
seats were
we're
very
firmly
comfortable,
in
so
the air, I'll
thought it
then
was a good
offer
experience.
my further thoughts and assessment of
Certainly
Batik
not-
Air's
Certainly
domestic
not necessary
business
to do
class
it, but it
on
was a
our
good
flight up to
experience nonetheless.
Langkawi today. So just sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Here's
the
our
next little bit.
EVA Air Bangkok to Taipei flight review. This is probably my favourite economy class flight review of the year, I reckon.
Over half an hour.
First time, I think, flying a 787-10 variant.
Local Southeast Asian version of Uber, essentially.
So getting to Savannaboom Airport was easier than I thought.
Around 20 Australian dollars.
Did a poll on the community tab which priority pass lounge to try. Oman Air came on top, and that's exactly what I did.
Which must be one of the few lounges, priority pass.
Some ways this lounge is quite good, in other ways it wasn't so good. It was good being able to get champagne though.
In Australia. So that's absolutely
try to provide a bit of amusement reading the local Middle Eastern newspapers with a glass of champagne, so yeah, I hope you thought that was amusing.
Anyway, the lounge itself, I don't mind it. It doesn't have a huge amount of natural light, and it doesn't.
Bit of a long walk back to the gate here in Bangkok, Savannaboom International Airport.
Taipei, we better finish up that very drinkable glass of champagne and head over to the gate. But yeah, in
Those business class seats look very inviting.
Come on board our
Definitely want to be reviewing more international business class flights in the future. Definitely starting to build up some points balances, so should be able to do that in the new year.
With 34 in business class or Loro class, as we're walking through now. In business class, you'll find there's a 1-2-1 layout comprising of these beautifully designed generous airlines. Seat pitch comes in
it's a very comfortable looking cabin, the EVA Dreamliner.
With a width of 17.7.
I think I really showed off EVA Air very well indeed. Good entertainment, good food,
probably better than average.
Good crew, good service, good mood lighting, modern aircraft.
Blanket as well, which
yeah,
is really
what
good.
more could you want?
Experience,
the flight was a little bit on the pricey side, however.
depending on whether you want to just have a drink or have a meal or use a laptop. You've got plenty of options to optimize it for its most convenient.
Fantastic view being on the wing, taking off out of Bangkok here. Definitely one of my favourite takeoffs of the year. I think it did quite well, the standalone video as well.
Of how it looks outside, so that's really cool. On today's flight, most of the passengers after the lunch service very much dimmed their window shades, but I definitely don't think they were locked by the crew, so people were still free to adjust them.
Certainly did a few of these on the recent Asia trip, in-flight beer reviews.
This is Taiwan.
Definitely don't mind local lager up in the sky, and the Taiwanese beer was really good.
Lager, so yeah,
certainly rated it.
Beers I've tried on Aviation, never tried Taiwanese beer before, and both of them are a winner. Now as I sit back, relax and settle in for the last few remaining hours of this flight, watching a couple documentaries as the window shades darken and the mood
pretty cool landing again into Taipei.
That we're in the middle of the night when it's... maroony sort of coloured seating.
This is our Thai Smile review that we only released not long ago.
Fairly stock standard tray table, does the job, and yeah, do appreciate that.
Did have a bit of a ramble on this one about the confusing check-in experience and the poor communication on check-in about the delayed flight. Yeah, once I got on the flight, it was a very pleasant flight itself.
So yeah,
good crew and good service. Pity the meal was very small though. Great landing as always coming into Bangkok on our short flight up from Penang. So that's a wrap of some of our flights from the recent Asia trip. Also did a couple extra additional train reviews. The KLI Express train review did really well. Got over 1,000 views, still gaining views, so very impressed with that one. My Taipei Metro MRT Airport Line review as well also did well. So yeah, good overall video this one, I think. Give you a good glimpse of what it's like to arrive into Malaysia and whether it's worth taking the train or just going for a grab.
On the KL Express train, found it to be a very, very comfortable journey and experience. The seating is quite comfortable. Seemed to be a pretty spacious
in terms of other reviews
today,
on the thing, I left off the other Air Asia flights for this review, but yeah, you can certainly see them on the channel as well. Another big part of the recent Asia trip was with my walking tours. Probably didn't perform as well as my New Zealand based walking tours. Maybe there's just a little bit more search level competition, but yeah, my KL walking tour got over 1,000 views, so it was pretty wrapped with that. The Colombo walking tour as well got around 900 views or so, and then other ones did seem to go quite well initially, racing up to 300, 400, 500 views. Then they seem to kind of die off, so a bit unfortunate they die off, but maybe there's things I need to work to improve on them. So that's saying I need to improve in 2024. One thing about filming walking tours in Asian destinations, not always practical to use the gimbal on a phone, because there's constant threat of downpours and that sort of stuff, so with heat and rain around it's better to use the GoPro. Here's my Ximending walking tour, very popular, vibrant night area here in Taipei. Thought this was a really cool walking tour, also one of my more successful walking tours on the channel. So finally I did the ultimate Sri Lanka travel series. Now I decided to do a 2-minute intro, the same intro at the start of each video in the series. Maybe it made the series, maybe it broke the series, been too long, I don't know. But yeah, I'll just play the full trailer in itself, as it's a perfect snapshot of everything in this huge Sri Lanka travel series. Been quite well received overall. Most of the videos have got a couple hundred views, some have even approached 500. That spectacular safari through Udawali National Park, that raced off with quite a lot of views. It's slowed down a bit though, obviously there's a lot of competition. But yeah, definitely check out this series. It's filmed with my GoPro 10. Obviously iPhone 13 Pro Max as well, so it's a lot better quality than my Tasmania or USA or whatever series, so definitely should be a lot better quality. Definitely check it out indeed. So yeah, very diverse country, Sri Lanka, in terms of scenery. You can absolutely see it all. Hills, mountains and coastline all in different days. All in a few days. Alrighty, it's nearly 2 hours into this mammoth review of all reviews, so I think it's best we now start to wind things up. But yeah, just want to say a very big thank you, very huge appreciation for all the support of the channel. Wouldn't been able to do it all without you. Been absolutely blown away by all the support of the channel. To think I could have got 1,000 subscribers is absolutely incredible, and to think we absolutely smashed that goal this year is absolutely amazing. Not going to make any predictions or targets exactly for what is ahead next year, but yeah, I'm definitely going to be doubling down, definitely going to be working to massively improve my content again, try and make it more interactive, and yeah, try and make it more appealing as well. So yeah, I don't know where that will take the channel, but yeah, definitely got plenty of good things planned for it. So yeah, definitely stick around in 2024. If you are watching this video over the Christmas and New Year period, a very Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays. Really hope you enjoy it. Do stick around as well. Potentially might be having a Sri Lanka live stream coming up as well, so stay tuned for that. If you are watching it early into the new year or any time next year, very safe and a prosperous year ahead. Really hope it serves you well, and yeah, follow your passions, and yeah, really hope what interests you, follow your interests. If you are looking at doing sort of a aviation travel sort of YouTube channel, absolutely do it. Just understand it will take a lot of hard work to get it off the ground. So yeah, that's it folks. Thanks you very much for watching this mammoth year in review. Really hope you've enjoyed it, really hope you found it useful. And yeah, as always, don't forget to visit my website, AussieJetSetter.com.au, for the latest in flight reviews, industry news, destination guides, frequent flyer hacks, and more. Now that I've stabilized the channel a bit, got it off the ground, definitely looking at returning to that website to kickstart it again in the new year. Don't forget to visit my Instagram page as well. Also, don't forget to visit my new AussieJetSetter YouTube Shorts channel as well for more short form content covering where I am in the world in real time. But until next one, thank you very much for watching today's mammoth video. Until the next one, until the new year, thank you very much for watching all of my videos this year. Much appreciated. Cheers and have a great Christmas and a very prosperous 2024 ahead.